Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Danette's Thoughts on Jesus. Today, I want to think about the woman at the well. It starts in John 4. Jesus leaves Judea, and he's going back to Galilee. He stops in a little Samaritan town called Sychar. I think I'm saying that right. This was near Jacob's well. So Jesus stops. He's tired. He's hot. It's about lunchtime. And he asks the Samaritan woman who comes to get her water to give him a drink. This is a big deal because Jews did not associate with Samaritans. The patriarchal culture that they lived in also, it was even less likely that a Jewish man was to speak to a Samaritan woman. If they were going to speak, it would probably be to another man. So Jesus begins telling her about living water. She asks to be given this living water. Jesus tells her to go call her husband and come back. And she says, you know what, I don't have a husband. And Jesus is like, yeah, I know you don't have a husband. You've had 5 husbands, and the one that you're with right now is not even your husband. And he just tells her the whole history that she had with her previous husbands and her current partner. Here's the important part. He tells her her past, but what he does not do is condemn her when he had every legal right to condemn her, spiritually and socially, as a religious teacher and as the Son of God. He had the authority to condemn, but he does not. He could have sat in judgment on her, but he does not. He does something else. He actually reveals to her that he is the Messiah. Now, why is this important? Because ancient texts were very structured. They had a specific way that they were written. And if you look in through the Gospels, Jesus does not tell anyone else that he is the Messiah. Now, he asked Peter who he thinks he is, and Peter tells him the Christ, but he does not directly come out and say, I am the Messiah, like he does to this Samaritan woman. Something else to note here is that Jesus also never tells her she must convert to Judaism. Jesus says salvation comes from the Jews, but never tells her that she believes wrongly. Just as in the parable of the Good Samaritan, there is no condemnation of the Samaritan religion. But he did actually condemn the religious leaders of his own people. The Samaritans were hated by the Jews mostly because the Jews felt like they had taken their religion and they had perverted it in some way. They had mixed it in with their own cultures and had just completely wiped out what they considered the core of their religion. So they thought Samaritans were less than them. It wasn't about race or skin color back then. It was about who you worshiped. And even though the Samaritans believed that they were worshiping God and they believed that they were doing the right thing, the Jews condemned them because they did not agree with the way that they had taken their own cultural ideas and integrated it into their society. It amazes me that Jesus was the kind of person to speak to a woman in such a kind way, since she literally could have been just done away with. I feel like the big takeaway from this is that before we're so quick to judge others because their faith is different than ours, we should take a look at how Jesus responded to faith outside of his own, with love and with kindness. Because kindness does a multitude of things. Like, it covers so much stuff. If you are having a bad day and you go into a store somewhere and somebody is kind to you and smiles at you and tells you they hope you have a good day, that's uplifting, like, that's encouraging. And it is our job to be encouraging. It is our job as human beings to encourage one another. So my takeaway from this today is that before we decide to be harsh on people who have faiths different than us, maybe we should show some kindness and some understanding and learn about that person's religion and see what we can take away from that and what they can take away from ours. So don't be so quick to judge. And thanks for listening to my thoughts on Jesus today. Bye-bye.